Hi, my name is Kelly Benish, and I am VP of Strategic Partnerships at Uberall, which is a global local presence and reputation company headquartered in Berlin. I wanted to present to you overview on coronavirus response for businesses through SEO and extended marketing today. And I have a deck which I will present now. You will have access to this deck at the end. And if you have any questions regarding how your business specifically should respond to coronavirus or any recommendations that you do need, just let me know. Feel free to reach out. My Twitter handle is at the bottom here at localsearch. And you can also email me as my contact information is at the end of the presentation. So I wanted to just start off by overviewing the virus in general. And here's a timeline on coronavirus. Horrible virus, obviously started in Asia and then came through Europe, just ravishing certain areas. And now, as of May 8th, there were 1.3 million confirmed cases of coronavirus, a high amount of recoveries, and then over 77,000 deaths in the US alone, and 272,000 deaths in the world. As you all know, staying at home, life has changed drastically. The unemployment rate was up 10 million out of a job in just 2 weeks. And then they're estimating that it could reach about 52.8 million, or 30% of US folks out of work, which is topping the peak of the Great Depression. Really sad statistic. What we notice is that with these hard hit industries like hospitality, retail, food service, many different trends in search have been declining, whereas restaurant reservations have declined dramatically because you can't actually dine at a restaurant. Takeout is now a term that folks are searching. And what we found is that less than 1 month of expenses in reserve is typically what most SMBs see across the board. About 50% of all small to medium-sized businesses have less than a month of expenses in reserve. Restaurants specifically only have about 16 days, which is just shocking. And then the median mark is 27 days. And that's between real estate, high tech, metal and machinery, healthcare, wholesalers, and construction as well. When we look at all of the stats, this is a study by JP Morgan Chase. About 51% of businesses have 0 to 3 months of financial reserves. So what does that mean? There's been a lot of shifts in behavior. Spending priorities have changed. Search behavior has changed. And there's been a pivot to e-commerce. Will it be temporary or long term? What we're realizing now is it'll be a blend of both. I think a lot of these spending priorities and search behaviors are going to stick around well into the coronavirus pandemic. We're also seeing that e-commerce based platforms like restaurant ordering or takeout extensions are going to become a future staple. What we also noticed is that search trends really moved from wants to needs. So working from home, needing office supplies at home, electronics, educational materials for kids that are now at home, exercise machines and programs, beauty and personal care at home, dyeing your roots. There's been a lot of changes that have been felt across the board. And with that, the near meat categories are down, but others are up. So whereas folks used to search for cafe and restaurant, they're now searching much more for grocery, delivery, and then also stores open because so many stores are closed down. The other trend that we noticed is that basically across the board, the trends that are gaining are streaming video service, food delivery, home fitness, collaboration and video software, anything to make working from home easier, staying fit, trying to achieve a semblance of a normal life from home. The other thing that we noticed is that about 68% of marketers say their goals have stayed pretty much in flux or have actually increased. And so they're anticipating that their goals may get a little bit aggressive by next year. So we put together this guide for business owners and for the agencies that work with both SMBs, those small to medium sized businesses, those SOHOs, those small out of home office businesses, as well as those VSBs, those very small businesses, and even global retail. Same principles apply across the board as they're trying to make this drastic pivot. They're trying to make sure that their businesses will last long beyond coronavirus. So chances are a global pandemic was never really part of the business plan, but with more than a third of the world's population on lockdown this spring, including most of North America and Europe, it's almost certainly having an impact on everyone's business. And so experts project that the slowdown in the economy will begin at $1 trillion and go up from there. And a large portion of that impact will be borne by small and medium sized businesses, as well as the self employed, most of whom lack these resources to really absorb the loss. In the UK, for instance, there were 5.8 small businesses in the UK at the start of 2019, but the Corporate Finance Network Advisory Group has estimated that about 18% of them may not be able to survive in the next coming months. In the US, about 96% of the country's 30.2 million small businesses have been affected by coronavirus, according to NASDAQ, with about 75% experiencing decline or lost sales, and 51% saying they will only be able to operate for 3 months or less, which I went over before. Only 18% of Canada's small businesses are still operating, according to a Toronto Sun survey, and 40% of Canadians, 1.12 million, say they are worried the pandemic will force the closure of their operations. So it's an impeding global closure across the board. That's really what we're seeing. And there's some challenges here, right? When we talk about depending on the kind of business you're running, small businesses may be challenged in many ways. So for employees, you may have one or more staffers that you currently use or pay, or you may have staff out sick or otherwise unable to come to work. So making it hard to deliver your product or services. There's some employee-based limitations in that case. There may be too many employees on board. Most businesses are short on customers right now, but for a few, there are suddenly too many to accommodate and still deliver quality. So it's a scale issue. And then for some businesses, the customers as well as the employees are there, but they have issues with maintaining sufficient supplies from vendors that they can actually rely on. And then some companies would be able to keep running, but are prevented by closures and other government guidelines. Many businesses are struggling with how to sell anything not related to the current crisis, having difficulty with breaking through the noise or getting people's attention while they're distracted by concerns over health and social economical welfare. And some businesses might be able to ride out the downtime, but the uncertainty surrounding the timeline of the virus means it's hard to reschedule postponed work or to plan ahead for any future bookings. This holding pattern represents not only lost work today, but for months to come. And some businesses might also be struggling with what's socially acceptable or even socially responsible during the downturn. So could staying open now affect their reputation or brand? An ice cream store might be food, for instance, but is it actually essential? So these businesses are asking themselves these questions, these hard questions. So when we look at opportunities, right, it's tempting to look at this year and only see the bad things, but there's really some great opportunities out there. I did want to outline a couple of those. So, the shutdown may be driving you to offer new products and services and develop new channels for those products or services. Some of those could become become long-term permanent additions to your offering. That may add additional revenue, even lower costs, or help you to be more resilient in the future. This will also, if you're able to be resilient and keep offering something useful during this time under exposure, you may find that changing patterns of consumption may help you win new customers. Competitors may be closed, and customers may be looking close to home for things that they used to travel for, which can work to your advantage. So, as you go virtual, you may find that you are increasing the reach of your local business beyond the immediate neighborhood, and some of those customers may be with you long after the emergency ends. And that also feeds into customer loyalty. So if you're able to continue and to employ your staff and serve your customers, you may find you've won their long term loyalty. And then finally, the investment, right? Businesses that are able to not only hold their ground, but grow during this time may be poised to rapidly expand once the downturn has passed and things begin to normalize, picking up great talent or resources while demand is lower. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. I think the important thing is just knowing where to find it. Some financial options to look into include government assistance. Almost every government in North America and Europe is offering some kind of tax relief, short term work allowances or grants for small businesses. Some states, provinces, and counties are offering assistance programs, as are local and city governments. Be sure to check at every level and consult with your accountant if necessary to see what you can qualify for. There's also loans and community aid programs. There's a list of resources at the end of this deck that you'll have access to with the live link in there. It's also under uberall.com/coronavirus. There's an entire queue of resources if you wanted to just take a look at our site. So, when reorganizing your business to trim variable costs, you can always reduce spending. So, where can you cut back on expenses in the short term that won't impact your profitability or quality? Uh, when we look at limiting services, consider cutting back some of your more challenging or less lucrative services. For instance, a restaurant could offer a limited menu to save costs on ingredients and double down on favorites, or a shop could limit inventory to accommodate a limited supply chain. And then, if you have multiple locations within driving distance of one another, consider temporarily closing some of them and then consolidating staff, lowering expenses and man hours. And then also use this time as leverage. Talk to your vendors, your creditors, your landlords, see what they might be able to offer in terms of deferred payments or renegotiated deals. Most of them are human and they don't want to see you fail. And they might be able to help you stay afloat over those crucial months. It's also hard to cut back on headcount, but your employees might also be willing to work with you. So they might be preferring to take a short term salary cut or deferred compensation rather than to be let go. A third area to look at as you try to ensure your financial solvency is trying to get quick cash infusion by ramping up sales and attracting new customers. Here's some financial strategies for that. One, offering deep discounts. Lowering your profit margin and move your entire inventory can be good short-term strategy to keep transactions flowing. For examples, for example, restaurants could create a menu of items focused on low production costs with reduced markup to maintain volume with modest profit. You can also get really specific in your sales and promotions. So maybe a good time to offer a doorbuster sale or other attractive promotions to give people stronger incentives to buy your products or services. And then the last thing you want to do is invest in communications and marketing. Sometimes just simply reminding customers that you're here can be critical at a moment like this. You want to update your business information and publish regular content and updates to consider that promotional spend. The next thing that you want to do is basically adapt to the challenging moment we're in. And so normally it takes time for us to recognize the need to shift or evolve in business. Today, the decision to change is being made for you. There's really not a choice involved, as selling the old way becomes difficult or impossible. It's really time for plan B. Pivots are not something to fear, particularly if they're made in a way that doesn't take a lot of retooling or resource development. In fact, 15 to 20% of businesses undergo a pivot or radical change at some point in the lifetime of the company. Businesses that can pivot in this moment will not only be able to ride out the downturn and social distancing, but may discover new lines of revenue, products, or services that will then ensure their resilience during future interruptions. There is speculation that there will be another coronavirus wave in fall. So that's just a warning that maybe should be heeded. The first question that you want to ask yourself is, what is the core benefit you offer your customers? Now's the time to try to understand exactly what your end value is to customers. That means not the product or service you offer, but the real value to the people who buy from you. If you're a gelato shop owner, what you offer is something sweet or a treat. Perhaps you're a theater. What you offer is entertainment and escape. If you're a gift shop owner, you offer diversion. If you're a salon, you offer beauty and confidence. And then if you're a walking tour guide for tourists, what you offer is cultural education. If you're a brew pub owner, what you offer is tasty food, beer, and camaraderie. So, whatever the end benefit is to your customer, you really need to think about it more as a result than the specific product. It really frees you up to think about other ways that you might be able to offer the same benefit that may help you pivot your company to continue to deliver it in a new way and also stay afloat. So, can you modify your existing channels? Your first pivot option should be thinking about how you can modify your current way of selling to accommodate the constraints of COVID-19. Examples of this might be stores that are offering window shopping, putting items in their windows with signs, and then instructing customers to actually call in their orders for contactless delivery. Using one of the examples I mentioned before, a brew pub closed for dining in can ramp up takeout and purchase growlers to sell beer via takeaway. Another restaurant could decide to reduce the menu to a few favorites and offer them fast food style for quick takeaway, operating with a smaller crew and still keeping customers happy. Some restaurants have even taken to selling groceries to supplement their regular menus and income. Can you offer that benefit through a different channel? Your first pivot option should be thinking about how you can offer your core benefit in a new way. Start with the products you already have. Is there a way to offer a version of them through delivery, mail order, or the internet? New channels might also help you amplify your existing product, such as a game store offering online community game nights to drive mail order sales. Also, using the examples aforementioned, a gelato shop might hand deliver gelato via temperature controlled containers to local customers. The theater might offer paid access to monologues, Zoom improv, musical performances, or other live theater experience via live stream. A gym might stream their fitness classes through Facebook groups, Instagram Live, or even Zoom. And a salon might promote in store beauty products for online ordering. A tour provider may provide flexible online reservations for future tours. And then, how can you find new customers? You might also try to find new customers for your existing products. If you're selling online and shipping items, you're no longer limited to your area. Can you offer your goods and services to a broader audience by using the internet and amping up your e commerce or social media? Another option is to look for different kinds of customers in your own area. When one wholesale food supplier lost his local restaurant customers who had shut down operations temporarily, he advertised on Facebook that he was offering bulk sales of staples like eggs, pasta, and produce for pickup or home delivery. He ended up actually growing his business and hiring new employees to meet this demand. Give some thought to the entire distribution chain of your products. Are there people further down the line who you could jump to directly if your own customers are not buying? Are there other applications for your product? Might this be a good time to broaden your focus? Can you offer your core benefit by developing new spin off products? The secret to your survival might be changing the emphasis of your product offering or developing an entirely new product in keeping with your core benefit or brand, at least in the short term. And then can you move, at least temporarily, to an entirely different product or benefit? A final pivot to explore is a bit more drastic, but might work for some businesses. That would involve changing what you offer entirely for the short term. You will want to be sure that you can leverage your existing infrastructure, employee skill set, and avoid reinventing your business in a way that will require any investment you may not recoup. You will also want to ensure that you have the right channels in place to market and sell or donate even your new product. Wherever you see a niche that you can easily fill, there might be an opportunity to keep your business going for a few more months until things return to normal. An example might be changing your manufacturing to produce materials needed during the pandemic, such as valves for ventilators, or a company that usually services restaurants might pivot to become more of a delivery company themselves. Here's just an overview on different industries, challenges they're facing, and other options that they can take a look at. There's anything from food, service, hospitality to production based companies and how they can make that pivot. If you are looking for guidance, again, this deck will be available at the end. The other thing to consider is your customer focus. So, perhaps the most important place to focus your efforts during this pandemic is on keeping existing customers. Normally, businesses tend to focus on prospecting and winning new business, but that energy will really be better spent strengthening relationships with people who already believe in you. It always costs less to keep your existing customers. So, personal outreach to top customers. If you have an email list or customer phone numbers, don't be afraid to email, call, or text them to see how they are doing. And then let them know your status and how you are trying to continue serving them during this time. You really want to find out what's top of mind for your customers and be creative about ways that you can help them solve their challenges. They will remember you for this later, and it will also humanize your business and cement future loyalty as a return for your business after it opens. The other thing that you may want to do is put together options for your loyal customers, but by way of offers and special packages. This is to thank them for staying with you or even to encourage them to renew or continue contracts. As you reach out to these clients, be sure to employ the 80/20 rule. So, statistically, 20% of your customers are likely to be providing 80% of your business or referrals. Focus about 80% of your effort on these top customers to help ensure that business continuity. The other thing that you really want to focus on here is marketing and communication, obviously. So, how you present yourself to the public and communicate with your customers will have direct impact on their perceptions and the strength of your business going forward. You want to keep them and the community informed about your business, what you're doing, remind them that you're out there and still alive and thriving. So, depending on your product or service, you may also need to be careful about selling too aggressively. And many customers are actively trying to support businesses they value, so they may be highly receptive to your outreach. How, when, and what to communicate. You really want to focus on existing channels wherever possible because your customers are used to hearing from you there and they're going to be looking for that information on that channel. Don't be afraid to expand your marketing channels to reach new customers. And advertising is actually a relative bargain now. So, your cost per lead for Facebook is so inexpensive, it's ridiculous. While people are captive at home too, it's timely. On categories and types of communication, you want to update your hours on Google My Business and Google Maps. You also want to use social media as a channel for ongoing engagement. On directories, you also want to do online advertising, physical storefront flyers, and signage so that people can just absolutely know that you're open or closed. And your communication cadence, you want to limit emails to 1 to 2 a week. There's tons of best practices out there online. On social posts, try for daily posts on Facebook or Instagram. And if you have a blog, try to update it at least weekly. What to share? You want to make sure customers know if or when you're open or closed, updating that information on Google, Facebook, and Yelp if applicable, and other relevant directories on your pages depending on your industry. You also want to add an FAQ to your website. So creating a special coronavirus page or area of your site where you address the current situation for current and potential customers. You really want to make sure that information is highly visible and easy to access. You also want to make them aware that of what you're currently offering. So including any new services, products, or e-commerce elements that are part of this pivot. And then you also want to proactively reassure consumers about safe handling and safety communications through COVID, as that may go a long way towards convincing them to buy, but also reminding them that you're still selling. And then you also want to address your cancellation policies. So relaxing those cancellation policies may make more customers feel more comfortable about planning ahead. And if you've done this, be sure to let clients know. And then one majorly important aspect of communication is, of course, public relations. If you can afford it, it's great to give back or donate to community projects, and products. Really putting any goodwill that your company is doing on blast without alienating the people that you're helping. That's really the guide on not looking like someone who's being disingenuous or acting like one. Here's some other quick tips. Overhaul your menu or services. Use this time wisely for your pivot, and make sure it's relevant to you. And then the other thing to keep in mind is decide when to open and how to open again. Be careful with it. We will probably not be entirely free of COVID for some time now, and there will be some social distancing protocols and even new outbreaks of the virus after general bans are lifted. So this is really going to affect people. You really want to prep those campaigns for reopening. So one important thing to think about is how you'll reopen and when you do. Demand can be high as customers who've been stuck at home finally get out. You want to communicate hours and service changes, optimize your digital information, so Google My Business, Facebook, and elsewhere. You may also want to treat reopening like the launch of a new location and plan a celebration that can make a large splash locally, together with social media, and also include it in email announcements. You may also want to encourage visits with in-store specials, sales, and promotions. And then also consider search and social ads to alert and remind customers that you've reopened and highlight any important information. And then long term, you really want to ask yourself this set of questions. How can you diversify? What ideas has this pandemic given you, etc.? And then leverage your connections. So I have here too just preconditions for recovery. We talked about everyone's hoping that the economic impact will be more of a V. And then here are those resources that I mentioned earlier: pivoting your business, online tools and services, and then general resources for SMBs. When we look at the general aftermath, there will be some long-term changes. It will be interesting to see how many people will remain working from home, and also, how many people are more reliant on takeout versus in restaurant dining, and how many of those conferences out there beyond MDMC will move to a virtual format. I've got conferences all the way in September that are now moved to virtual. So it'll be interesting to see how long that sticks. The other thing that you really want to focus on is being tactical. So consumers are still very much searching for local information, especially opening hours and product availability. They're continuing to make these phone calls to local businesses, and search is critical communication channel and should always be addressed, especially immediately. If you haven't addressed search and social, I think you should right now. Identify what products are in stock, move to an e-commerce platform if your food delivery or pickup versus restaurant. If the restaurant's closed, then mark it as so. There is a way for you to temporarily mark a location as closed in Google My Business. The other thing that's so important right now is don't create generic sounding content and customer communications. This is really a time for genuine or authentic messages to your audience. And empathy is an overused term. in marketing, but it applies here. So think about the person on the receiving end of the message. We're all highly stressed. We're all home. Some people have kids at home, um, cabin fever. You're sheltering in place for a week. So be considerate. Also consider what makes your content stand out or more helpful or more useful to your clients. And then find out what channels work for them. Are they on WhatsApp? Are they on Facebook? Do you want to organize a trivia night? Make it fun for them. And the initial impulse at this time may also be to pull back or pause budgets on advertising. If you're in travel or hospitality or the conference business, that may make sense. Otherwise, you probably need to double down on search engine optimization and invest in relevant new content and landing pages, specifically that COVID page that I mentioned. So everything's pretty much outlined here. You definitely want to communicate changes via email, put a COVID banner on the website, create those Corona pages and FAQs, create helpful and useful content for your clients, be thoughtful about reviews and customer feedback, reevaluate ad campaigns. So do the budgets and tactics make sense now? Plan or participate in as many virtual events as you can to replace trade shows. And then think creatively about your business. Are there new opportunities? Are there big ideas? And for your customers, how can you help them? Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to tweet me at @lowkelsearch, or if you'd like to email me directly, it's Kelly period Benish Benish at uberall.com. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day. Stay safe and healthy.